It's late. The house is quiet in that particular way. It only gets after midnight, when even the appliances seem to soften their hum, when the air feels less crowded with expectation. There's a lamp on across the room. I didn't turn on the overhead light. I rarely do anymore. The desk is still cluttered. Papers, a notebook with half-finished equations, a cup with cold tea I forgot to drink. I used to think I thrived in chaos. That disorder meant movement, progress. Now I'm not so sure. I didn't expect love to find me in the middle of all that noise. Not because I thought I was above it, and not because I thought I didn't deserve it. I just assumed it would arrive in some grand, cinematic way, something proportional to the scale of everything else in my life. It didn't. It arrived quietly. You arrived quietly. I remember the first time you stood in this room. You didn't comment on the screens or the stacks of work or the way I pace when I'm thinking. You noticed the plant by the window, said it needed more light. It was such a small thing, and somehow it unsettled me. Most people see what I build. You saw what I neglected. At the time, I mistook that for curiosity, maybe even charm. I didn't recognize it as care. I've spent most of my life chasing difficult problems, the kind that resist you, the kind that demand sleepless nights and obsessive focus. There's clarity in that, binary outcomes. It works or it doesn't. Love doesn't work like that. It isn't solved. It's noticed. That took me longer to understand than I'd like to admit. There were nights you would sit on the couch while I answered messages I insisted were urgent. You never complained. You would just tuck your feet under you, open a book, and exist in the same space as me. I used to think your silence meant you were fine. Now I understand silence can also be patience, or hope, or exhaustion. I don't revisit the past to punish myself. I've done enough of that in other areas of my life, but I do revisit it to learn the shape of what I missed. You tried to show me that love lives in the ordinary, in shared meals that go cold because we're talking, in the way you would reach for my hand, absent-mindedly, not to make a statement, just to confirm I was there. In the mornings, when neither of us had anything profound to say, but you would lean against the kitchen counter and watch me drink coffee like it was somehow interesting. I kept waiting for intensity. You were offering presence. I didn't know the difference then. There's a particular memory that comes back to me more often than the others. We were walking late at night, no event, no reason, just movement after a long day. The air was cold enough to wake us up. You slipped your hand into my coat pocket instead of holding it. It was practical, effortless. It felt like trust. At the time, I was thinking about a problem I couldn't solve, something technical, complex. I remember nodding absent-mindedly as you spoke. I don't remember what you were saying. That's the part that stays with me, not as a sharp regret, more like a dull awareness, a quiet acknowledgement of how often I was almost there, but not fully. You never asked me to be less driven. You only asked me to be present when I was home. That felt simple. It wasn't. I had built a life where urgency was constant, where being needed was proof of value, where rest felt like negligence. You challenged that without ever arguing. You would turn off the television mid-conversation and say, "Come sit with me," just that, no accusation, and I would hesitate, as if the world might collapse if I stepped away for an hour. It's strange what you realize after something ends. The house feels bigger now, not emptier in a dramatic way, just less textured. There's no second toothbrush by the sink, no book left open on the arm of the couch. No quiet music playing from your phone in another room. I used to crave silence. Now I understand the difference between silence and absence. Silence with someone is warm. Absence is colder. I don't blame myself, and I don't blame you. We were who we were at the time. I was still learning that being strong doesn't mean being unreachable. There's a cost to always being in motion. You tried to slow me down gently, not to stop me, just to let me breathe. I didn't realize how tired I was until you were gone. Not tired from work, tired from holding everything so tightly. You once told me that love isn't measured by how much you can endure for someone, but by how safe you let them feel with you. That stayed. I had always thought love was proven through action, through building, providing, solving, protecting. You taught me it's also proven through listening, through putting the phone down, through noticing when someone's voice shifts slightly and asking why. After we ended, there was no explosion, no dramatic final scene, just a conversation that felt strangely calm. You said you needed a life that didn't feel scheduled around urgency. I nodded. I understood. Understanding doesn't always mean you're ready to change in time. The weeks after were quieter than I expected. I kept reaching for my phone to tell you something small, a strange headline, a thought about a design flaw, a memory, and then remembering there's humility in that. Not the public kind, the private kind, the kind that sits with you at night and asks whether you were as present as you believed. I've always believed the future can be engineered, planned, iterated. Love resists that framework. It asks for attention now, not optimization later. Sometimes I wonder if I needed to lose you to understand that, not as a lesson, just as a fact. You were never asking me to change who I am. You were asking me to let you see who I am when I'm not building something. That was harder. There's a vulnerability in stillness. No achievements to point to, no progress updates. Just a person sitting across from you, waiting to be known. I was good at being admired. I was less practiced at being known. When I think of you now, it isn't with sharp longing. It's softer than that. I think of the way you would straighten the picture frames absent-mindedly, the way you laughed quietly, like you were surprised by your own amusement. The way you would rest your head against my shoulder during long drives, even if we weren't speaking. Ordinary moments, they feel enormous in retrospect. I don't know if we would have worked long term. That's not the point anymore. What matters is that you expanded something in me. You showed me that love isn't a distraction from meaningful work. It is meaningful work, not in a performative sense, not in a way that can be allied or optimized, in the sense that it reshapes how you exist in the world. I move differently now. I pause more often. I leave my phone in another room sometimes. I sit in silence without trying to fill it. Not because I'm trying to become someone new, but because I finally understand what you were offering. There's gratitude in that, quiet gratitude. You once asked me what I was afraid of. I gave you a complicated answer about failure, about letting people down, about wasted potential. The honest answer was simpler. I was afraid of needing someone. Needing introduces variables you can't control. And yet, the brief time I allowed myself to need you was the most grounded I've felt. That's the paradox I carry now. I don't know where you are tonight. I don't know if you ever think about this room or the plant by the window that finally gets enough light. I water it regularly now. It's grown. That feels symbolic, but I won't force it to mean more than it does. Some things just grow when you pay attention. If I could speak to you without reopening anything, without changing the course of either of our lives, I would just say this. Thank you for sitting beside me when I didn't know how to sit still. Thank you for loving me in ways that were quiet enough for me to miss at first. Thank you for showing me that presence isn't weakness, it's courage. I don't expect love to arrive the same way again. I don't expect anything really. But I know now that when it does, it won't be loud. It will probably look like someone noticing the light in a room or reaching into my coat pocket on a cold night. And this time, I'll notice